Wow, this was the best episode of Mandalorian, wasn't it? Loved it, absolutely loved it. The Heiress, it was called. We had Katie Sackhoff's Bo-Katan revealed. It was quite special, this episode. I had such a good time. Really, really, really good. Whew. Now, in terms of the episode structure and things like that, and how they've been following all of the seasons, I do find season 1 and season 2 seems to be following the same track. So season 1 kind of sets the stage a little bit. Episode 1, sorry, sets the stage a little bit. Episode 2 sort of slows down. Episode 3 starts to pick back up again. And this was no different, to be honest. It's plodding along really, really nicely. I love this. I absolutely love it. Absolutely love it. And there were some reveals in this episode which were, I guess, kind of spoilerish. I'm not going to go into too much. I'll give you a big spoiler warning for that. A lot of people will probably think this is a spoiler, but it wasn't. This has been confirmed. I don't see this as a spoiler. It has legit been confirmed. She was going to be in it. She is Bo-Katan. I don't see the spoiler. The costume is great. Look at that for a costume. What a good live action interpretation of her cartoon costume. And don't she look good? Christ. I was really shocked. Timeless. Absolutely timeless. What a great pick as well. The cartoon versus live action. It just works. Like, it just works. This has been the best episode yet. Lots of action, lots of deceit, lots of story progress. Because I know a lot of people were really butthurt over the last episode not going anywhere, even though narrative structure, it has to slow down eventually. Not every single episode has to keep going forward. Like, it can't. Even though last episode kind of did, because he's been trying to find the coverts. But whatever. So this episode, basically, it picks off from the last one. They're in space. They get to Trask. And then stuff happens. There's a little bit of deceit. There's a little bit of, twisting, conniving people. And then there's a little bit more of the Empire. That's it in a nutshell without any spoilers. But it's tying it up really nicely. And also it's expanding it outwards. Now, if we don't meet back up with Bo-Katan, I think I'll know why. And it'll be because the spin-off show that I don't know has actually been announced or not. I'm not certain. There's been lots of things rumoured, but I don't think they've absolutely announced it. So if we don't meet back up with her this season, I know why. And it's because they're spinning off the story that has been laid, the framework has been laid in Mandalorian for its own show. And I will say this, I actually wouldn't hate that. If we had a Bo-Katan show, I actually wouldn't hate it at all. I'd be all in for it, quite frankly. Now, the music, especially in this episode, was bang on. I really liked the music. Bryce Dallas Howard directed this episode, and it was the most action-oriented we've had. In fact, it was the best one we've had so far, and she did a fantastic job on the direction. The cinematography, specifically, under her direction, was great. As an action movie, it worked really well. The camera had such a great point of view to it. Such great cinematic shots of, everyone sort of scooting off and jetting away, again, without getting into too spoiler details, them all jetting away. One great shot. If you've seen it, you'll know exactly what I'm referring to. It was staggering. It worked really, really well. Baby Yoda learned some lessons on not to eat frogs' eggs or little tadpoles this episode as well. So everyone who was butthurt over that last episode, well, it went somewhere and they don't do it in this one, and they taught them a lesson. I really liked it. We see Mon Calamari again. They're cool. We see the Squid Face Men again. We learn a little bit more about them, I guess. I guess you could say we learn a little bit more about them. But basically, it was great. The music was probably one of the standouts. Music and cinematography was the standout. And Katie Sackhoff, she was really good in this. I've not seen her in things for a while. So to see her in this, I think the acting, it stood up. Yeah, it really, really stood up. I thought it was bloody good, actually. And the action was so good. Pew, 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 pew. Oh, it was so good. It was great. All the action. But it all served a purpose. And that's the thing. That's what I really like about this series, is everything serves a purpose. Everything narratively speaks to just being well written. And it is a well written show. is a well-written show. I will say this before we get into spoilers, is that I like how everyone's armor is different, but if you look at the Mandalorians, Din Djarin, his is the best. His armor is the best. And it's not even that different. It's just shiny. It just looks the best. It engages my eyes. It's a visual feast. Because I look at these armor, you know, on this image here, and I look at them and I'm like, well, it looks good, but I'm not particularly interested in having a look at it again even further. I don't particularly care. You know? But the Mandalorian's armor is really cool. And I will say, certain elements in this episode lend itself to Boba Fett's return and a show not being as off the cards as I thought it would be. So anyway, that being said, really loved this episode. Thought it was the best so far. Great direction from Bryce Dallas Howard. Fantastic cinematography. And the score was epic. The reveals, epic. So let's get into spoilers. You've been warned, boy. Some spoiler warnings right here, right now. So, we open, they're in space, and they need to land. It's going to be a massive struggle because they need to land on Trask, basically. And we open, and it's really, 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 really tense because they're trying to land this ship. They're trying to land it. Oh my god, they're coming in hot. They're coming in fast, and they almost land, and then they plonk into the water because one of the engines blows. It's very funny. It's a good way to alleviate tension from a very hard intro, right? Because that intro gets you invested in the episode. Boy, does it get you invested. Straight from the off, it gets you into it. But you do need to slow it down. And a nice little light-hearted element of the ship falling in the water is a great way of doing it. Again, very well written. That just screams of very, very good writing. So then that happens. They get scooped up. They come out, and obviously Frog Lady gets reintroduced to her husband, and Mando says to a Mon Calamari, can you fix this? Gives him 1,000 credits, and goes about his business trying to find the covert, right? Now, from there, it goes to a tavern. One of them says, yeah, I can take you to them, no worries. You've got to sail with me, though. Obviously, it's a trap. And there's a really quite touching, gripping moment, actually. So it's a trap, and we find out it's a trap because he's like, oh, do you want to see this creature thing that, you know, not a lot of people have seen it. So do you want to see it? It's once in a lifetime thing. Amando's like, yeah, sure. And he's like, why don't you show the child as well? And he's like, yeah, sure, but don't get any closer. The child doesn't get any closer. And basically, in the middle of this ship, and it's an actual boat, a ship, a cage opens up. They throw a bunch of chum in, presumably. And as it starts to rise to the surface, he double crosses them, smacks the child into the hovering over the water, and this creature comes up and eats the child. And it is quite gripping, actually, because instantly Din Djarin jumps into the water to try and rescue him to save him. Don't think he can swim, though. I got the impression he couldn't swim because he jumped in. And he immediately comes back up because he can't go down, and he's struggling to stay afloat. So, but I thought that was really touching, and basically as he was there trying to stay alive and not drown, and obviously for the child, you know, trying to rescue the child, 3 Mandalorians jump down, Bo-Katan and her acquaintances there, and kill everyone, rescue Din Djarin, and he's like, get the child, get the child, get the child. Like, that's his first thing. You must get the child. And they get the child out for him, and he scoops it out and carries it like a baby again. And it was really touching, gripping, touching, great moment, solidifies their relationship and his care and affection for the child. And it was really nice, much needed, I thought. It's nice because the first episode we didn't have that so much, and to have that put to the forefront again, yeah, good, very, very good, necessary. And then immediately Bo-Katan takes her helmet off, and he's like, where'd you get that armor? You're not a Mandalorian. And she's like, no, I am the heiress to the throne. And she says something interesting, is that you're part of a cult, religious zealots, you know, that are teaching in the ways of the Mandalore, but are not actually Mandalorians, which, yeah, that's kind of what we've heard before. But it's interesting to hear that the way the Mandalore is not to take your helmet off. So now they've introduced 2 bits of canon. I'm not saying that they've contradicted themselves. They've just introduced 2 bits of canon where actual Mandalorians are happy to take their helmets off, and the religious zealots, the parts of the cult leader, are not happy to take their helmets off. Presumably because they're not actually Mandalorians, so they don't want to reveal their faces to anyone to have that revealed. But it's interesting. I thought that was really interesting. And basically, we're introduced to Ahsoka Tano by name, and Bo-Katan, played by Katie Sackhoff, will tell Din Djarin where she is if he helps her stop an Empire, an Imperial Force cruiser stealing weapons, because they want to use them to take back Mandalore, right? And so to take the rightful throne of Mandalore again. And then that's where all the action ensues, and it's great. It's really, really good. They jet set up to the ship that's taking off, and that's a great shot. It's amazing. It really is an amazing shot. And they have to do it before the ship reaches the harbour and can get out the atmosphere and then jump to hyperspace. And she's after the Darksaber, which is the thing I think maybe a spin-off if we're not introduced to her again, because by the end of the episode they part ways. But they must go, get the weapons, and then they get the weapons, and then she's like, no, we're going to take the ship. And he's like, well, this wasn't the deal. What are you doing? This is not, you're changing the terms of the arrangement. And she goes, yeah, this is the way. And I was a bit like, it's not the way, is it, mate? It's not the way. And so anyway, they take the ship, and there's only one Imperial Force officer there left at the end, and she threatens him, says, let me know, where is he? Does he have it? And he's like, well, if you have to ask, you already know, which was quite a good comeback. The dialogue in this is very good, actually. Like, the dialogue in this episode was quick. And it's interesting. We learn this new bit of canon. I don't think it's ever been seen before. I don't know. And he bites, just like, again, because they're based on SS. They are based on Nazi officers, right? That's what the Empire is based off of. And he bites down on a tooth, and it electrocutes him and kills him. So, like, the suicide pills that Nazis used to have in their teeth. I thought that was great. God damn, so good. And anyway, they part ways. She says, go find Ahsoka Tano on this planet. Tell her Bo-Katan sent you and you'll be alright. There you go. Great episode. Loved it. Couldn't have got any better, actually. I'm a big fan of this. Big fan. I realise I probably look really, really shiny right here. Wow. Really shiny. I love this episode. It was banging, so good. So let me know your thoughts on this down below in the comment section. Definitely the best one yet. If you are new here, please do hit subscribe. I release these reviews every single Friday. Next week may be a little bit tricky because I am away shooting my second film. If you didn't know, I am making a psychological horror film called Breaking Lights. It's a Lovecraft-inspired one. We're actually crowdfunding for it, so if you want to check it out, there's a link down below. There's a GoFundMe. It would mean the world to me if you could donate, and it just helps, original film actually get made, especially in this climate currently where stuff isn't getting made. But I'd love to hear your thoughts. Let me know. If you're new here, do hit subscribe. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.